Hey guys, Joe here, and welcome back to another collection video. As a society, we all like to assign numbers to things and to organize and put objects in a specific place. So with that in mind, here is what I think to be my top 5 box artwork for the NES games that I have in my collection at the moment. Again, this is just my own personal opinion, so obviously feel free to differ and to leave what you think may be your top 5 in the comments below. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, starting off in no particular order, we have this beauty right here. I love the artwork on this. It's like a hand-drawn, watercolored type of artwork, very detailed. It starts off menacing with a lone warrior pitted against evil forces and obviously an evil mage. And this one is Wizards and Warriors, which is a platforming game developed by Rare and published by Acclaim back in 1987. In this game, the player controls Kuros, who's a knight warrior of the Books of Excalibur, as he sets out in the Kingdom of Elrond to defeat the evil wizard Makil. Makil holds the princes of Elrond captive in Castle Ironspire, deep within the forests of Elrond. The player fights through forests, tunnels, caves, while also trying to collect keys, treasures, weapons, and magic items. Now, the biggest complaint about this game that I've heard is the actual gameplay in terms of the stiffness of the character. As you can see, he's basically limited to what appears to be just jumping around and obviously jabbing and slashing with his sword. There's not much else he can really do in terms of movement. Very stiff, but at the same time, this is one of the first games that I purchased, and a lot of it really just had to do with the artwork on the cover. I didn't know much about it. There wasn't much to really tell you about these games back then when they came out, except for artwork like this. And with artwork like this, I sometimes stared at the cover longer than I played the game. Anyway, this is one of my top 5 picks. IGN listed Wizards and Warriors at number 56 on its top 100 NES games. And I chose the next one not just for its gameplay, but really since we're focusing on the artwork, what other game really just needs to have one simple symbol to have you realize exactly what it is? That obviously would be Batman, the video game for the NES. Obviously nothing complex was needed since this was something that everyone has grown up with, dating back to its origin and Batman's first appearance in DC Comics. Now, Batman was developed by Sunsoft for the NES and the Game Boy, and is loosely based on the '89 film of the same name. The NES title is arguably the best known and contains 5 levels, which culminate in a showdown with the Joker in the bell tower of Gotham Cathedral. And this game has a feature that was unusual in side-scrolling platform games at the time of its release, largely to the NES itself. Basically, Batman has the ability to wall jump, which is very reminiscent of Ryu Hayabusa and his wall scaling ability in Ninja Gaiden in the video game. And Batman also has the ability to use 3 different projectile weapons, the Batarang, the Bat Disc, and the Bat Spear Gun. The NES version of this game has received mostly positive reviews, and some have even called it one of the best superhero games for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, this next game is something that I played mainly in the arcades, but obviously once I was able to get it for the NES system, I picked it up not just for the gameplay that I remember, but for the fantastic artwork on the cover. You have 2 buff dudes, one of them holding a very attractive female fending themselves and her off from obviously what appears to be a bunch of hooligans and ruffians trying to get them and hurt them. This, for me, I can honestly say really is one of the nicest artworks that I've seen on pretty much any box game artwork. I remember even having a number of friends having this hanging off their wall and framed. It was that much of a masterpiece to them. Double D2 is a side-scrolling beat-em-up. As I mentioned, obviously was released as a coin-operated arcade game back in '88, and this is the first sequel to Double Dragon. This one involves Billy and Jimmy Lee in a mission to avenge their girlfriend Marion after she is shot to death by the Black Warriors leader Willie, who is retaliating against the Lee brothers after his defeat at the end of the previous game. There are also many returning enemy characters from the first game, and these guys were obviously given makeovers and new moves to be used against your player. There's been weapons that have also been returned, but they've been redrawn and modified from the previous game. And like the original, this game is divided into 4 different missions: a heliport, a lumber storehouse, a farm, and a new hideout for the boss. Double Dragon 2, a fun gameplay, but also one of the best box artworks on the NES system. Now, this next one I chose is because I'm a big, huge D&D fan from back in the day, and I was a big reader of the Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance series, so obviously you can see why I would gravitate to something like this. I chose this one just for the amazing detail on it. This artwork, I have to give a credit to. This was created by Boris Vihalo. He's got paintings that appeared in covers of numerous science fiction and fantasy paperbacks and are featured in a series of best-selling glossy calendars. Subjects of his paintings are typically sword and sorcery gods, monsters, and well-muscled male and female barbarians engaged in battle. He immigrated to the United States in 1964, and at the age of 23, he garnered a fan following from his illustrations from the series Tarzan, Conan the Barbarian, Doc Savage. Now, you'll notice that the gameplay, unfortunately, leaves a lot more to be desired, and a lot more left to your imagination than what he was able to display on the cover of his games here. He did his artistic artwork is done through like medium and oil. And he's also, what I found interesting was he did a lot of film posters for fantasy and action productions, but he also did illustration posters for comedies, most notably National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation. Now, this next one I think really needs no introduction, but for me, I chose it not only just because it holds a place in my heart, but just something about seeing the cover screams joy and entertainment to me. Obviously, it's got a well-known and loved character, Mario, on it, but obviously you can see there's also something different about him in the fact that he's got raccoon ears, he's got a raccoon tail, and he appears to be jumping or flying in this picture. Something obviously we're unfamiliar with at this point in terms of Mario's gameplay. The bright yellow color, and just with Mario on it, just is simple and yet states something enjoyable about the game. This sort of draws you into it. I remember when I first saw the game, I was extremely excited about it, reading about Nintendo Power and whatnot, and seeing all the special things that Mario could do really drew me to the game. And I remember staring at this cover. This is still my original copy that I had when I first purchased it. And just something about the simplicity of the cover and just seeing Mario smile has somehow always stuck with me throughout all these years, and that's why I chose this as probably one of my favorite NES box artworks. For me, it's the simplicity of the box artwork along with the fun and entertaining gameplay of this game which really made it stand out for me, and will always have it in at least the top 10 of what I consider to be my favorite NES games. Well, thanks again for tuning in. As I said previously, this is just my own personal opinion of the top 5 box artworks that I have in my current NES collection. But if you want to throw out some of the top 5s that you have in your collection, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. As always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. You can follow me on Twitter at ACDecepticon and check me out on Instagram at MyLifeInCollecting. As always, guys, thanks again, and I'll see you again real soon.